La diffusion vient de démarrer. Tous les participants sont en mode écoute seul.
Hi everyone, welcome on this webinar. So thank you for joining us. Today we'll have Anne-Laure. She's the product owner of the Sens'it at Sigfox, and she will talk to you about the lessons learned from prototyping the Sens'it device. So thank you, Anne-Laure, and the stage is yours.
Thanks. So to tell you a little about me, I have joined Sigfox on the Sens'it project in 2017, but the Sens'it project started in 2014. And so I assume you already know about the product, but I would like to give you a quick overview. So Sens'it is a device, but it's part of the solution Sens'it Discovery, meaning the device plus the application. It's a whole service for our users, our clients, and the value for our customers. As you know, for a service is the data collection, but without the device, you can't have that data. And therefore, I wanted to present you the hardware part today. So but the hardware is not alone, and the goal of Sens'it Discovery is to explain what Sigfox is. And so we put the Sens'it in customer hand, and we show them the platform, and the double press on the button and the message is received. So they start then to understand what is Sigfox and experience IoT, and this is how the whole solution is focused on. So before creating the device, you need to think about the data you want to get for your services. This is a presentation of our actual platform, which evaluates along the time. And today we can provide a dashboard where you can visualize your data of different sensors. There is as well notification, so you can configure them to receive real-time alert. You can see as well the geolocation, and there is some gamification. So we want a total onboarding of Sigfox, but to get the data, yes, the Sens'it is required. So the link between the device and the platform is the payload, is the content of the message. And as you may know from V2 to the version 3, the actual one, we needed to change that payload to get more information. And it's something interesting because basically when you think you want to send a small amount of data through your payload, because you said, okay, small amount meaning small time. But in the protocol of Sigfox, what we found because of that is if you send 1 byte, it's a time. But if you send 2 bytes or 4 bytes, it's the same time. It's in the protocol. So we found it was better to send 4 bytes, and so we had more information in the content of the message. So this should be interesting to think about that. Before going into the hardware part, you need as well to think about 2 surroundings, and we had issues with both to change our hardware. First is the software, because so I told you about the message, but the time of the message is meaning consumption, and is meaning what data you can get is meaning sensors. And the code size is very important because it's linked to your microcontroller size, so flash size, which can be critical, and it was critical for us. And on the production side, it's really linked to your hardware choices and the price as well, because if you think about quantity, you may want to choose a model and not like to do your custom design because it will cost more. But if you go for big quantities, it's better to have a custom one. So it impacts prices. the flashing process as well. So you will use the bootloader, how you flash your Sens'it, how you will access to your flashing GPIO on the device during production. This is very interesting to make choices. The component management, because on the radio, if you do a design and custom design, it can be challenging because of the radio robustness. So I will talk about it later. And the test of the quality, maybe you want to add some measurement point. It will be helpful for prototyping phases, but as well for the production. So before creating your hardware, you have to think about all of that. This is the actual design. So here you have the version 3 and how we design it. Those functionalities, we wanted it to be used for multiple needs, because today it's a demonstrator, as I said, but it's as well used for proof of concept and proof of value, and people will use it for their own businesses. So therefore, all of those sensors can help. It's as well multi-Sigfox RC, so radio configuration zone, because we are using the free license frequency, which are different in each countries. So for all of our customers, we wanted the Sens'it to work. The casing is water resistant for outdoor usage, and the front panel customizable, because yes, we want to showcase Sigfox, so first we want our logo at least on it. And the usage, so as I said, demonstrator and proof of concept, proof of value, therefore we need all of that together. But Sens'it was not the third version. At first, there were 3 different official versions, and a bit more. I had the 1 bis and the 2 bis. So the adventure on Sens'it started for the Mobile World Congress 2015, so designed in 2014, because so we were targeting small volumes. It was just a goodie. And then we had an issue with the sound sensors. I will talk about it later. Therefore, we remove it for 1 bis. And to switch to the version 2, it was adding RC2, so for US, Brazil, and Mexico. And 2 bis because we had an issue with the antenna, so to switch to RC4. And for the third version, this was a complete change, so not anymore goodie, but a real product. So a new step for the production. We changed our partner. So for the story, at the beginning, Sigfox was saying, okay, we're not doing devices, we're a network. Therefore, we asked Accessible Technology to help us in the design, but it was made by Sigfox and Accessible together. But we positioned Accessible as our provider to avoid misunderstanding at that time for our customer, because we are and still are the network. So here is the plan. I will talk a little bit about what was the issues we had on each of this part of our hardware. So the casing is one part. It's very important for radio, the microcontroller, MCU, the radio, and the antenna. This is 2 parts, but together for communication, the sensors, and the battery. So let's start. For the Sens'it casing, so the big question was, should we use a casing off the shelf or a custom casing? For the first version, and we keep it for the second one, okay, it was just a goodie. So we wanted a few pieces, like 1,000. And so we said, why not taking something on the shelf? It was less expensive because for a mold, it's like 10,000 money only for the mold, and then you have to pay for the material, etc. So we save money and we save time. It was faster. So, but after that, we started to have issues with the delivery time because we keep it for the video. We had more and more customers, so more demand, but the delivery time was fixed and was long, and so it created issues for our organization. It was as well more expensive because we started to go for big quantities, so maybe a mold could be more interesting. There were big impacts on sensor value, and our users, they could see it, which was bad. For example, the temperature and humidity sensor, it was inside, and so it was too hot because there were no hole in the casing, and the humidity was not the real one outside. So there were a gap between the actual temperature of the users and the one inside the Sens'it. For the lux meter, the same. Like, you cannot see the actual luminosity if you're inside the casing, even if it's white. And for the button, it was just by pressing the casing, so not very useful for the users. It was complicated. Sometimes you miss a click. And the last thing is a LED, because to be seen outside of the casing, we put a lot of power into them, and it was very battery consuming. So this casing became kind of something hard to continue with. It has an impact on the size because we designed the size of the PCB and of the battery because of it, and an impact of usage because some people, they put it outside and it broke the Sens'it because of their water not resistance. So for the custom mold, it was adapted to sensors. There is a hole for the humidity and temperature, and a hole for the LED sensor, and it's IP54. It can be outside. For both, you have to check the plastic, because for certification, if it's not certified, you have to pay to certificate it. So be careful of that, because we did it, and we have to find it very handy because people will hold it, and sexy for the logo and the customization, as I say. So both at that, this was good. But the big and bad things we met when we did our mold was the battery, because as I say, is what we want to use it for proof of concept and proof of value, meaning for other applications at Sens'it Discovery, but the battery is small and sometimes it's a limitation. And we didn't think about that, like doing the mold bigger a little bit, because battery is volume space. So, yes, now the MCU. So MCU is where your code will be. And on the first version of the Sens'it, because we didn't change the hardware between the second and the third one, but on the first one, it was a very low-cost microcontroller PIC, for those who knows. And for this one is a STM32. And what we think is that there is a big community on this new one, so it was faster to code because there are some SDK, some simple code you can use. And for the IDE, like Eclipse, it's already included into it, so you go faster and you can flash faster. So this was important because it saves time. For the performances, when I arrived, because it was in the middle of the video, I was like, why don't you use a low power microcontroller? And so I was saying, yes, but if you see to the performances, sometimes for a lower price, you have a good microcontroller, not low power. But if you're in sleeping mode and you're doing well on your consumption organization and your software, it's good enough and no need to pay more. So this was as well learning for me. For the memory management, this is where we had issues today. At the beginning it was very fine, but because of the Sigfox library are getting bigger, we wanted to add Monarch, and the stack USB, for example, is not anymore in the Sens'it because there's no space enough, and we use the memory as a non-volatile memory to put the Sigfox credential, the ID and key, and so you can't write on it because, of course, you don't want to erase it. So our flash was very small at the end, and so we had to do a lot of code management to reduce the size, so it was a lot of work, whereas it could have been anticipated. And the flashing process, why? Because on the production side, when we had the V2, we flashed with the I2C bus because there is a bootloader inside our MCU, and we received data via the UART bus, but it was complicated because when you put the casing and you want to go for radio config testing, you don't have access to that. So on the next version, the V3, we flash 2 times, 1 time to have the testing mode and to use a USB, and 1 time to have the actual Sens'it Discovery embedded software to separate the 2 phases and to use only USB to flash, which was more convenient when you want to test radio with the casing around the PCB. And for the V2, there were a trick on the button to switch from actual Sens'it Discovery software mode and the testing mode. And sometimes our users, they press the button at the wrong moment, so it creates incomprehension. Yes, I guess it's all for MCU. Now about radio. So radio is the first cause of our hardware updates. Because as you can see, we needed the RC2 for US, so it's switched from version 1 to version 2. Then we needed the RC4, so we had to change the antenna, so 2 base. And then this is not a change, but later one before starting production, we had to adapt the antenna to the new case and to put the frequency in the middle. Yes. So here it's the diagram block of the hardware, and I focus on the 2 radio ports. So this is, you can see the transceiver, the RF switch, so you choose direct line for RC1 and RC3, and so power amplifier and low noise amplifier for downlink for RC2 and RC4 because it's not the same step. And the Xtal, it's a quartz. We put an outside quartz for the transceiver cadency. So the question here was, do I use a model or do I use a custom design? And we use a custom design. So first, for a custom design, you need to be very good for radio. But the model, okay, there are plenty today on the market, but when we started for the Sens'it, there were not a lot or expensive one, and we are our expert inside. So this was interesting to do it. So for a model, it's good. You choose your RC, you check the consumption, and you choose a communication with the STM32, like your MCU. But for us, so we said, okay, we have to choose first a transceiver. Why do we choose 61125? It was because it was TI was our partner. It was given for free, so good choice. And it was as well the only one where we work on RC2. So, and we still add this one, but today we have issues because it's not really well documented, and so we have trouble going further. That's the point. And I just wanted to tell you about our quartz issue, because when we switch from V2 to V3, we say, okay, our quartz is obsolete, we have to change reference. So we have to choose the same size to fit on the PCB. And the problem, well, we tested for Sigfox radio, of course, and we discovered that it was drifting in frequency. And we say, oh no, this is the wrong one, so you have to choose a new one. But then the new one drifted too. For a model, they go through certification verified, and they say you have to use this one, and sure, trust them. So, like for example, a TCXO, it's a one in temperature, constant temperature. But for us, it was just a quartz, so moving in temperature. And what finally we had to do is to push a thermal pad, like a sticking plaster on our PCB, to maintain the same temperature on the MCU quartz and transceiver, to be sure there will be no drift. So by not changing the hardware, we had to do that, to add something on the BOM and on the protection. But it was less expensive than doing a total new thing. And we had not space on the PCB to add the TCXO, of course. Antenna, I move it apart. So antenna so when we started with our antenna, it was one is custom. It was to switch from RC2 to RC4, because the first one, which was a corkscrew antenna on the market, was not reaching the RC4, so which is 920 megahertz, whereas the other one is 902. And so what was good for that is when we switched to V3, our antennas say, okay, I just have to adapt to the new casing to put the frequency in the middle. We just remove 0 to 9 millimeters of the material, and it was okay. So, and by the way, if you want to see how they did, a presentation is available on build.sigfox.com. You can check. But then what we realized is, for industrial purpose, it was not really adapted, because to folding this antenna, you need to be very accurate. And on the very first sample of the production, we realized it was not, so it creates bad performances, which was bad. And so we have to reinforce the quality of the folding. So it has a cost on material as well for the production. So maybe a total integrated antenna would have been easier. So now let's talk about the sensors. So sensors are here to gather the data. So this is what you can see. This is what mostly the people see. This is the most interesting and the most representative of your device. So on the first version, we choose them very randomly. The goal was just to do a goodie, so which is the temperature one, which provide periodical data, and only an accelerometer for event detection. And we had an issue because we said, okay, we will add a sound sensor because it was the trend of all the security things, so to make some use cases around that. But the sound sensor, it was listening every time and consuming so much. And as I said, the battery was designed only because of the size of the casing and not because of the usage. So when you're saying around like Sigfox is low power network, and when your demonstrator is showing like that in one day you have no battery, this is bad communication, so we remove it, only removed. For the version 2, which is actual for version 3 as well, we did a real benchmark to choose a component. So it was more, we check the price, we check the consumption, we check the performances, and as well, so which data we want and how it is accurate. So what we choose, which is temperature and humidity sensor, because there is 2 data in one, and the thermometer was the most used. So, and it is still the most used, so very interesting. But the only thing, because we were going to proof of concept, proof of value, so for more industrial things, it's the precision, which is 0.5 degrees Celsius. For Sens'it Discovery was very okay, but for Sens'it generic, which is only buying the device for your needs, it can be a limitation. But this one is very good because it consumes not a lot. It's work on interruption, very good. The accelerometer and magnetometer, so it was very fun because you can do the door opening detection without a magnet, but the magnet, maybe it's enough. And this one is expensive first. And for the magnetometer, finally, there is no usage. So we try to detect shock in a packaging, and there where we saw the limitation first on our knowledge, because to well use an accelerometer, magnetometer, it needs to be your job. And secondly, for the maximum range was limited. It's the one for a smartphone and not the one for packaging. For the luxmeter, on the video, as I said, it was covered by the casing, so it was just an usage on-off. So now with the new one, we said it will be better, but actually it is not that much because it's more relative. And if you want to be accurate, you need to put the light sources just in front of the hole in the casing, and which is hard to do in some cases, and it's very consuming. So maybe a diode would be better. So for the choices we didn't make, we thought about the gyroscope, but it would have been the same thing as the sound sensor. It's very consuming. And the pressure detection, but at that time we said, okay, it was too expensive and we didn't see the use cases. But now with Monarch, we could have known if it was high enough, and in the boat to know if a container is high or not. To go in the plane for the pressure, it could have been good. So this is one of our bad choices, just to let you know. Okay, so now about management. So I already told you the casing size, and for proof of concept, it was bad choice for the battery. But as well, I just said, okay, we keep the same hardware between V2 and V3, and we keep the same battery, because we said for certification, it will be faster. Actually, the Sens'it is sold in all the countries where there is Sigfox, but for each country, for example, there is a CE European certification, there is a FCC. For US, there is for Mexico specific certification, for Brazil specific one, for Latin America, each of these countries, for Australia, for Singapore, for Japan. And so you need to pay for each of them. Some are for free, but most of them are really expensive, like 300 euros. And so it has a cost. And when you say, okay, I'm not changing anything on my PCB, only the casing, you have the paper step go faster. So we say that. But on the production phase, when our EMS sources a component, it sources another battery reference. And so when we go to FCC and CE, we were like, okay, this is our battery, the same one. And they were like, no, I need the paper for that to say this battery is certified in my country. And so as we choose battery from founders, there were no certification because they donated, and so we paid for that, which at a cost too, adding to the cost of the certification. So it was not that much a good idea. For the technology is lithium-ion, which is, have issued with the plane, so it reduces use cases as well. And the plug detection, so what is it? And when we made the device, it could have been possible to detect if there is a power, because via USB you can recharge your Sens'it. But it was not down, and we can't know from the MCU if there is USB charger plug to our Sens'it. So in some use case we need it, so we have to put a wire between our MCU and our USB good point of entry to detect that. So we have to change the hardware so to lose the certification, so it's okay for prototyping. But this was, I guess, one of the big problem on our hardware too. Okay, this is WiseBat. I wanted to tell you about it because what we've done for Sens'it, it's today we're opening everything. We have a free SDK that you can record the behavior of the Sens'it. This is very interesting because you can control differently your sensor, you can define differently your payload, and to match your needs. And it's for free. You can download it on build.sigfox.com, where we put all the references for developers for Sens'it. And so on these things, you have the possibility to completely change the behavior. So not doing the Sens'it Discovery, but doing new things. And so this is a tool provided by one of the startups we know, where I already put the hardware. So you can fork it and just details what you want to do, and it will estimate in 2 clicks the consumption you will have. So before testing on field, you can have an idea. And this was interesting because for us, for battery management, at the beginning, what we were doing, we were, okay, so I have my device. I want to send like 2 or 4 messages per day. So the size of my message is that size. So it will be that time for sending it. And at the same time, you're saying, okay, you have your constant consumption of your device, and you had this messages pick, plus you open your sensor, and my sensor consumed that, and you put your LED. So it was an Excel sheet, and we're working like that. With that, it's faster. It's available. So just for you to know. So yes, I'm going at the end of the presentation now. Maybe faster than expected because I talk faster. So as a summary of this presentation, as you noticed, Sens'it changed a lot along the years, along the different, it was just from 2014 and now it's 2018. We just start the 3rd version. So each 2 years we change the hardware or the casing or something. And it always have a cost, but it's always the same focus. So to make people discover, but now there is more because we are thinking there is a value inside, and it's good thanks to the sensors and thanks to all the RC and all the possibilities for, as I said, your own usage. And we learn a lot. We have done a lot of mistakes, but you can always improve. And what is interesting to see is that it's following as well the Sigfox Live. If you think about between the RC1 and RC2, the V1 and V2, there is the RC2 coming, so US, Sigfox in the US. And then you have as well the changing for RC4, Sigfox in Latin America and in Asia. And you have RC3, Sens'it in Japan, and now it's coming RC5 and RC6. So it's showing the expansion of Sigfox in the countries. And for the V2 from the V1, there is as well big sensor switch. So what we want to do, what we want people to expert at use cases to test more. And on the version 3, you can see we're going for production, changing partner, going for more quality. So all of that had an impact of the hardware. And now, yes, there are still problems, but we're more mature and we're improving step by step as well. So it was not a requirement and then a design, but it was a lot of different requirements and a lot of different changes. And you need to think that if you're building products, your product will have a life. And to prototype a product is like 6 months, then to produce it, it can be 1.5 years to do test bench, to do everything. And so maybe sometimes keeping your hardware, thinking what I can do with that, where can I bring my customer is more interesting than starting again. Sens'it is as well more open. As I said, on build you can find the dev kit activation, on buy, the SDK on build, and it's just like Sigfox, it's more open. And on build you can find many tips to build your own device. And so this has an impact not only in the hardware but in the software too. And this I can do another presentation later, but on the software and on the app and on the wall solution, because it's not that. And what I had partner network logo here, it's because it's nice as well to exchange with people who are building almost the same device as you are. Because for example, for us, we have simple cell with we have a small demonstrator as well, and we exchange with Pavel to know what we can do and to think which sensor we can use or what can be interesting, why using one single hardware for one RC, etc. So yes, many things to go still, and it was very interesting to work on that product. So I hope it was useful for you too. And I don't know, feel free to ask questions.
Thank you very much, Anne-Laure, for the presentation. So just before starting the Q&A section, you can log all the questions on the written section. In the meantime, I'm launching a survey. So we've got 2 written questions. One from Matthew. He's asking how does the Sens'it works with Atlas? The question for you, Anne-Laure.
Yeah, so Atlas service is on the cloud side. And as I show on the second slide, I guess, we get a callback from the backend with the Atlas geolocation service, and we can have the location of our Sens'it on the application side.
Okay.
So yes, it's available. And now you can do as well some geofencing notification if you want to know to try if you're going into an area or outside. So yes.
Insert a new Sigfox license code, or are the codes indefinite?
Can you repeat? Sorry.
Another question. So how can we insert a new Sigfox license code, or are the codes indefinite?
For the license code, what are you of the certification code or the like ready and verified, or?
What I propose is that if Detlef, who asked the question, if we can open your mic and if you can ask it in live and precise your question, that would make it easier for Anlo. Your mic is open now. Detlef.
Yes, hello. This is Detlef.
Hello.
Hello.
Question?
So we are quite frequent user of Sigfox of the Sens'its, and at Sigfox you have this that the license is good for I think 1 or 2 years of usage. I think we read it somewhere in the small prints, and so we bought already 10 new, or I don't know how many new of these credits.
Oh, you mean the subscription? The subscription.
Yeah, it's for Connect.
Yes. Then the subscription credits. Yes, I'm sorry for the wrong wording then.
Okay, so how we are doing the Sens'it is the Sigfox operator are our distributors. So at Sigfox Corp, we're selling their device, doing discovery things, plus the application access. And then on top of that, the Sigfox operator is adding 1 year connectivity. And if you want to rebuy, you have to go to your Sigfox operator or to us, and you will buy more token and we'll activate again your Sens'it. Is that the question?
Yes, pretty close. So we have bought these tokens already, and how could I insert them? So basically, how can I reactivate old Sens'its 2.0, or so if we have them from an older base still running.
Okay, so if you have tokens.
One more question is also where can I see how long these tokens are valid? Because if we have it somewhere in the field, it would be good to see, yes, it's valid for another 6 months, and then we could just reactivate or insert the tokens, and that's so yes.
Okay, so if you bought token, you have on the back end, you have created device, you have a contract, and you have created a device type on the back end associated to your contract. So for any device on Sigfox, to add your device, you go on new device on your back end, and you add the ID and the pack code, which is available actually on the Sens'it platform. You can get it, or from your provider, your device provider. So you use the ID and pack code, and you add this device in your contract. So it will move from the Sigfox operator contract to yours, so you will see it.
Yes.
And then on the information on the device, so it will consume a token at the first communication.
Okay.
And when you go on the information side on the backend, you will see how long your token is valid. So sometimes it's for 1 year or for 2 years, depending on what you buy.
Yes, yes. Info side of backend. May I just forward your mail address in case we have some question about this? Just if the tech people here just have a question.
Yes, of course. Of course you can.
Yes, wonderful. Very good.
You're welcome.
And I have one more. May I add a question? So we are, I think, some kind of Sens'it community, right? How could we share our Sens'it data with other community members, or how could we have like a joint platform of all the community members to say, okay, I would like to share my Sens'it data with others, so they could have an advantage. So yes, or could you imagine that you include such option?
Okay, so for now we don't have, but this is a good idea. and can be interesting. Well, we need to think about that. But thanks for the idea. And maybe for developers, we will open soon a GitHub, where we will put the SDK and some sample code as well. So it's not on the data side, but more on the software side. Yes.
Okay, thank you. We have another question about the sensors. How did you guys pick your sensors? The question is from George Horta, so maybe you can ask yourself the question so it can be easier. Hello? Okay. Can you hear me? So the question is, by picking the ones with very slow current consumption, or did you choose the sensor, the cheapest one or easy to use? How do you guys take that decision?
Well, we chose with all of that, plus what we needed as a data. So, for example, for temperature and humidity, it was easy to use because, okay, if you open it, like, it consumes okay, but there is a interrupting pin, GPIO, on the sensor. So we said, okay, so we can switch it on and off when we need to. But for the lux meter, we didn't make that, and it consumes too much. So it was more a price at that time orientation, and what we wanted people to do as a usage of Sens'it. But now, with feedbacks and usage, I'm more clear about what I could choose. I guess I missed some information. Is it okay for you, or
George, I think now the micro should, the mic should works. No, okay. No mic. Okay, so by the way, in the meantime, you can raise your hand on the software if you want to take the mic. Another question from Luke. What about the devices that a customer buys online and has no access to Sigfox backend?
Okay, so it depends on what usage you want to do. If you want to have a service, you don't need to add an access. But for example, we will soon sell our Sens'it generic, so software only, device on the one of our distributors, and on the device we are adding the pack code on the device directly. So for DevKit, they're doing this as well. So it's mostly in the production phase that you're providing the pack code. And I had an issue with someone who sold a Sens'it online, and another person bought it, and so without any pack code, and there were no more connectivity. And so he contacted me directly on Sens'it's website, and we found back the pack and can re-register it. So in Sigfox, we can always find it back if there is an issue.
Okay, thank you. There is another question from the same person asking how will they know about the tokens?
How will who know about the tokens?
So since someone has bought a device online, how do you know when the subscription will expire?
So you don't know, but when you try to use it and you contact the service after sales, they can check like why it is not working. And so I don't know, really depends on product. But for Sens'it, mostly they contact me, and I'm checking, okay, you have no more token validity, so we will see with your Sigfox operator it's working. But now with our actual version 3, as we have a new platform, we are the platform is activable for 1 year at the same time as the token validity. So then we will say, okay, you have to do the renewal for the connectivity and the platform at the same time. This is because we provide a service.
Okay, thank you very much. Is there anyone who wants to ask a live question to to Anne-Laure before we finish the webinar. There is no more written question. Raise your hand if you want to ask a live question, and we will open your mic and let you ask. Anyone? All right. If no one has any question, then that will be the end for today. Thank you very much for attending. We will send you the presentation deck tomorrow, and see you at the next webinar. End of the month, we have one on supply chain. Looking forward to seeing you there. Bye-bye.
Goodbye, guys.